All right, welcome back to Empire of the Sun. This is the last card play for the Allies. This will take us into the end of the turn, and we'll look at attrition and how that works, and the national status segment and how that works. Uh, so this will be good. All right, so the first thing that happens is the Allies just basically move their card a little bit here, so I can actually move this guy into A2, which is what I had wanted to do earlier. But unfortunately, his card was in the way. You might say, well, why am I moving this army or half army to Atu-Kiska? The reason is that in 2 turns, at the end of turn 4, if he's still there, if I still occupy that rock, then then the Allies take a political will hit for the occupation of Alaska. All right, that's the reason why. Okay, so it's just a political will thing. Um, okay, so let's continue on, see what's going on. All right, he plays this card. He plays the Operation Ash card, which is an interesting play. Uh, Normally, this would be a really good card to play because if you look here, it says intelligence to surprise attack. This is different from any other intelligence strategy card that we've seen so far. There's this thing called intelligence surprise attack. All right, so here it means that if had this been played for the event, then the only way I could react to this operation is through the use of this, is through the use of the JN25 code change card that we have here. This one is the only way that the only thing that can, or cards like this, intelligence cards like this, are the only way that I can see this coming. And so it's a very good card for the Allies to play at the end of the turn had he wanted to play it for the event, because I don't have any more cards. I cannot possibly react to this invasion. But what he did was, well, he can't use this as the event because he doesn't have the Anzac HQ. It says activate Anzac HQ only, and Anzac HQ isn't on the board yet. So what he did was he used it for the ops on CPAC on Central Pack. Ops on CPAC for 3+3=5. So he activates limits 3 plus the 2 on the card. That's 5 activations. He activates 5 units. Okay, he activates yeah, quite a few units. He activates the guy on Wake. Okay. All right, so he activates 1, 2. He activates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he moves them like so. Okay, notice what he does here is he does an amphibious assault from Wake, the Marine Brigade from Wake, the half-strength Marine Brigade from Wake, and moves to any way top. He doesn't cross. He doesn't cross any Japanese zones of air zones of influence, and he's able to land on a hex that has no, or land on an island that has no enemy units on it, so he doesn't create a battle hex. So I cannot react to that. Okay, so very clever on his part, very good move. It's just now that anyway talk becomes a pain in the butt that I have to take back. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see, right? I want to take it back. All right, so he adjusts his allied ASP, okay, and then he moves, interestingly enough, he moves the 7th Air Force to the delayed reinforcements box, okay. Then he moves the all of these fellows, these carriers plus the half-strength New Orleans, and then he moves them to via strategic movement. Remember, strategic movement is supposed to be port to port, and then you multiply by 2 your allowance, your movement allowance. So you can move 20 hexes. Normally, you can only move 10, but now you can move 20. Okay, so let's just count that up real quick. He moved to VD, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Phoenix Island, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that's about as far as we'll go in VD. So that's that. Okay, strat, he says. Okay, now we're done with the movements. Now we're done with all the movements. Now we come to the national status phase, and we check with any of the countries have surrendered. They have not. None of the countries have surrendered. The DEI is not surrendered because where the DEI to surrender, we have to occupy all of the resource hexes plus Chillichat. So we have not occupied the hexes, the Banca and this one over here, which is Palembang. We have not occupied those two hexes. So DEI is still alive. Malaya is still alive because we have not occupied Singapore, and the Philippines is still alive because we still haven't occupied Manila. To make Manila surrender, you have to occupy both or control both Davao and Manila. To conquer Malaya, you have to occupy both Kuantan and Singapore. Okay, so that's that. So there are no, but here, down here, in Guadalcanal, down in Solomon Island, we do take the entire Solomon Islands chain because we have Rabaul and Guadalcanal. When Rabaul and Guadalcanal are taken, all of these guys, all these air bases down here, revert to your control, or in that case, Japanese control. Okay, so that. Okay, so he has. Okay, so he created a little marker here to remind us that at the end of turn 4, it says Alaska occupied. It's just a marker that allows us to say, hey, okay, remember in turn 4, Japanese get a political will point. Okay, so we'll score on game turn 4. Okay, okay, so he's adjusting all the resource hex markers here, Japanese amphibians, and so on. Okay, so he sets that up. All right. Okay. So allied uses passes. So he sets everything back up again. Okay, now what he's doing is I think now he's doing attrition. Okay, he's now in the attrition portion of a turn. And what attrition is that if, for instance, if you cannot trace supply to an HQ that it can activate you, then you attrit. That means that you have to flip over any full strength air or ground units. Naval units are not affected, which you cannot trace a supply path or path to an HQ. And in particular, these guys in Australia, interestingly enough, although they are sitting in Australia, they're not supplied because they cannot trace to an HQ that is itself in supply. Sync packets way too far away, out of range. You can already see that that's way too far away, and there's obviously not in range of 5, not in range of Manila, and besides they're cut off anyway, even if they were in range. So you can see here that a lot of these things attrit. So he attritted that, flip that over, flip, that guy flips over, the Port Moresby Brigade flips over, okay, attrition, okay, that guy flips over, all right. Okay, this guy flips over. That guy flips over. This guy in Singapore flips over because that's because even though he is on a plate in range of this HQ itself is cut off. It's not in supply. So this HQ is unsupplied, and therefore this land unit is attrited. HQs obviously don't take attrition losses. Okay, although they can't activate, they can't cause supply. So any 2-step units flip over. The guy in Manila, that guy flips over, and that's it. Now you might say, well, hang on just a minute here. What about all these 1-step units? This guy, and all the orange units. As long as they're in range, and it doesn't matter if they're cut off or not, the HQ is cut off or not, as long as they're within range of a friendly HQ. In this case, Manila takes care of all these guys down here. All the orange guys and all the green guys, American units and the Dutch units, they don't die because they're single-step units by attrition because they can all face here. Now, the only ones that are affected by attrition, again, that are flipped are units that have 2 steps, and these are 2-step units down here. Okay, so all right, so that's done. That's it, he says. Okay, so now he's moved to game turn 3. We are officially in game turn 3. Okay. So what he does here now is he brings on his reinforcements. Okay, he brings on all that stuff. Okay, and now, this is going to be interesting, I'm going to show you this. You've got all these green guys here. Okay, so what happens is that, okay, all right. Okay. Okay, so what's going on here is that the Allies are taking their reinforcements, okay, all these reinforcements. And because of the war in Europe situation, okay, the war in Europe situation down here, all the reinforcements go into the delay box. Okay, they go into the delay box. Okay, except for at least all the American ones do. All the American reinforcements go into the delayed reinforcements box. Okay, so okay, see all these guys that go into the reinforcements box. So the British ones do as well. All right, so you move all those guys to the reinforcements box. Okay, all these guys go into delayed reinforcements. These guys who were already in the delayed reinforcements box, they come out. Okay, because they were their last turn. Okay, so now what's going to happen is we're going to see if any of these guys, these are the guys that just came in from his reinforcements, they're going to come in to the delayed reinforcements box. And we're going to try to find out if these guys are diverted to Europe. Okay, and the way you do that is you roll against all these units, and if you roll a 0 or a 1, okay, at this level, then they go to Europe and they're delayed 3 turns. They're delayed entry to 3 turns. Um, as the war in Europe counter goes down, the war in Europe goes more and more badly for the Allies. You can see that the US reinforcements continue to be delayed, and the divert range, or the range, the diral range by which you can send units to Europe increases from 0 to 1 to 0 to 3. Here's 0 to 5. Okay, so it's pretty bad as this war in Europe thing goes lower and lower. And remember, war in Europe is a card play, which I didn't play last time. I didn't play for the event because I didn't really think it was that important. But anyway, so you have to roll 0 to 1 against all this. So he's going to roll. He's going to roll 2 dice, rolls top to bottom. So from the top to the bottom, and we're looking for a 0 or 1. Okay, 4, 3. Okay, 4, 3, 8, 7, and 7, 3. Okay, so no zeros or ones. These guys don't go to Europe, but they are delayed. Okay, all right. So all these guys go, and then they all go to the delayed box. So they come in next turn. All right. All these guys that were already sitting in delayed reinforcements, they come in this turn. Okay. So you can see that. Okay, if I just click through this, you can see how here in the delayed reinforcements, he's deploying his reinforcements on the board. Okay. Okay, what's interesting here is where reinforcements can be deployed. American reinforcements can only be deployed in ports that are not under, that are first of all friendly to the Allies, and second of all not under an AZOI, not under an undisputed AZOI. So in this particular case, he puts a lot of this reinforcements in Kiligili and Port Moresby, which I did not put an air umbrella over. I just didn't have the cards to do it. So he does that, and you can see that he already is going to put down Japanese control flags all over the Solomon Islands. Okay, all right. So he puts all of his air. He puts a guy here. He puts Anzac here, headquarters. There's a new headquarters for that here. That comes into Darwin, Anzac. Okay, so delayed reinforcements about Dar. Okay, so all these guys. He puts some reinforcements there. Okay. Okay. So all these guys go here, and he's create a small fleet here. All right, delayed reinforcements box, so on and so forth. Okay, so all these guys that were in the delayed reinforcements box have been deployed, and all the guys that just came in from the reinforcement track goes into the delayed reinforcements box. Okay, there. Okay, normally at this point, okay, okay, so he moves his British reinforcements, okay, onto the board. Okay, British reinforcements are not delayed. And then we can see at this point he's doing replacements. I'll do replacements now. Normally, what happens here is that the Japanese do the reinforcements, and then the Allies put in their replacements and the Japanese do their replacements. In the interest of keeping the number of saving time, what my opponent has done is he's going to go ahead and take his replacements now. Um, and okay, so what happens is that you can see here what are the replacements. If you can see down here, his replacements on turn 3 is 2 ground, 5 air, and 1 Chinese replacement. So he goes ahead and brings in replacements for them. He can flip this to full strength. He can flip half strength units to full strength and bring in units that are not in the dead pile, that are not eliminated, or not yellow dot units. Yellow dot units, like for example these guys, this Indian Corps, this Burmese division, those guys cannot take replacements. Okay, so if they're gone, they're gone. Okay, so I'll do replacements now. Okay, so he does all this. He takes replacements. He gets 5 air replacements. So he's able to bring this back up to full strength. That guy which just got attritted. Okay, okay. He takes on a ground replacement here. Remember, he's got 5 air and 2 ground. Yeah, 2 ground, 5 air, and what's U.S. naval. So he does all that. He gets all that done. So takes all of his replacements. Okay. All right, that's it. He says. Okay. And he draws 6 cards. Now he has 6 cards and 1 pass. All right. So and he takes an ASP. He gets an ASP reinforcement. He used to be at 1. Now he's at 2. Okay. All right, and he has 1 pass. Okay. All right. At this point, what I did was I went ahead and took my reinforcements and deployed them. Okay, if I remember how I did this, is I took, these are my reinforcements. Not as many reinforcements, obviously. Okay. Fortunately, we don't have as many reinforcements, but it is what it is. Okay, so what I did, if I remember correctly, is I put the Junio here in Palau. Okay, that's allowable because that's a friendly. This is Japanese friendly. How do I know it's Japanese friendly? Because it's behind this Japanese Empire line, and they're by default friendly to the Japanese and little occupied by the Allies. Okay, and I think I put this 31st Army, half army. I put him. I remember I put him here in Hollandia. Come to think of it, what I should have done was I should have put him in truck, but oh well, that is what it is. If I remember correctly, I put this fellow, this reinforcement, I put him in Kota Baru or something. One of the air bases up here. It may have been Bangkok. I think I put him in Bangkok. And finally, I took this fellow and I brought him all the way, this Japanese naval air unit, and I took him all the way over here. I put him, if I remember, oh yeah, I remember where I put him. I put him here in Ponape. Where is he? Oh, here, Ponape. I put him here. Again, this is friendly to put an air zone of control over any Weetok. Okay, so that's where I put my Japanese reinforcements, and then I took my replacements as well. I took replacements, and I don't have too many replacements. I only have 1 naval replacement. If you look at this chart, Japanese don't get a lot of replacements. They certainly don't get any air replacements, and that's really bad. Okay, because okay, so we have 1 naval replacement. So do we have any half-strength Japanese ships? Yes, we do. Up here, the Yamato has finally been finished. We finally finished building the Yamato and the Musashi. So that is flipped over and it's a full strength 1818 naval unit, which is pretty big honking big unit. And then I went ahead and did that, get all the replacements. And then what I did was I rolled for subs. Okay, what is that rolled for subs? It's the strategic warfare segment. So I rolled for how effective his submarines were in causing a loss to Japanese industry. And the way you roll a 10-sider, And basically, if the Japanese or the Allies, but I did it for the sake of saving time, if you can roll on a 1d10, the game turn itself or less, okay, then the Japanese lose um, one card and one ASP. Okay, uh, here also in 1942, they also lose one. They also have a +1 DRM for holding torpedoes. So right now, I have that, and he rolled a 6, so he wasn't able. So there were no losses on the Japanese. Okay, so and then I drew my card, my hand card size, my hand card, card hand size, excuse me, of 7 cards, and played the first card. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in the next video. Okay, so thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the video.